Cynthia, you have the next question.
Senator Panaccio, as you know, the cost of health insurance and what it covers and doesn't cover is an increasing burden for middle and working class families. What legislative remedies do you propose to lower the cost of health insurance?
Well, I don't believe it should be Hillary care or no care. What I'm proposing is that we knock down barriers that prohibit us from buying insurances across state lines. Right now, if I were to purchase a plan in Pennsylvania, go to your side of the river, that plan would cost me 1/2 to 1/3 the cost of a similar plan in New Jersey. The difference being that there's certain rules and regs and mandates that apply to that plan. But if we knock down those barriers where all the states can now buy amongst themselves, you're putting the power of 300 million consumers to work where they can actually put pressure on the cost to go down and the quality of the service to go up. The rules, the regs, the mandates would be different, but I'm a big boy. Let me decide for myself what's in the best interest of myself and my family, what plans I want, and the type of plan that I do want or don't want.
Your response, Mr. Zimmer?
Well, I don't believe that we should let a bureaucrat determine our health care choices, whether that bureaucrat works for the government or works for an HMO. I think what we should do is empower patients as consumers who will, together with their doctors, make these decisions by informing consumers, patients, about the quality and the cost of the health care options, and then giving them more power to make those choices themselves. There are huge inefficiencies in the system that we can also eliminate by pushing for more prevention and better records.
And Mr. Sabrin, your opportunity for a response.
Simple again. Too much regulation, too many mandates, too much reliance on HMOs, which the government told us in 1973 would be the panacea to control costs. Too much inflation was driving up the cost of everything from A to Z. What we need to do is go back to a type of government that leaves people alone to take care of their health care needs. Ever since we've had Medicare and Medicaid, two programs that have great intentions, but their costs have been spiraling out of control for the last 43 years. If we don't do something about those costs over the next 60 years, our children will be facing a liability that's going to be unprecedented in world history.
Senator Panaccio, a rebuttal.
We are currently talking about globalization of our economy, and globalization in a certain sense works. As you knock down those barriers, you put more people into the pool, more consumers. More consumers means that those products and those services that are delivered to those people, they have to compete for them. And because they're competing, that means that you're going to put pressures on them to give you the best quality at the lowest possible price. That's something that we've never tried in this country relative to health insurance. Let's try it.
Cynthia, you have a follow-up.
Yes, Senator, would you require employers to provide health insurance for employees?
I'll tell you what I would do, Cynthia. I would give, if an employee does provide health insurance, I would give them a tax break. I would give them incentives to work with us instead of it being an adversarial relationship. Right now, most of the insurance that's offered in this country is offered because of employers. So I would make it easier for employers to do it, and I would allow the free market forces to take over. If you can get a cheaper product of health insurance that's just as good, it'll encourage the employers, therefore, to give that product to their employees to keep them there.
Bob Ingle, your question for Mr. Zimmer.
Mr. Zimmer, 2 Republican candidates dropped out before the party brass drafted you for this race. How do you convince people that you're really interested in being in the campaign?
I didn't anticipate being a candidate. I supported Ed Estabrook, who dropped out of the race because of a health problem. And when the party leadership felt that I was a preferable candidate to the 2 candidates who were remaining in the race, I talked with my wife about this, and I realized that we are at a pivotal time in our nation's history, that we have to change dramatically the way things are done in Washington. We have to allow New Jerseyans to keep their dollars in their own pockets, and that I can be an effective person to accomplish those goals because of my experience as a leader in fighting to save taxpayer dollars. This is a valuable nomination. The incumbent senator is vulnerable, and so although I had no intention of running, this is something that I've devoted myself to entirely. I've taken an unpaid leave of absence from my job, and I look forward to the campaign against Frank Lautenberg.
Mr. Sabrin, your response.
I hope Mrs. Estabrook is recovering from her illness. The party leadership went to their Rolodex, finally got to you, and got to Andy Unanaway, who never stepped into the state and became a candidate of the establishment. He dropped out. They finally got to the Rolodex again, went to Z and got Dick Zimmer. This is not how politics should work in the state of New Jersey or anywhere in the country. We should have people stepping up to the plate like Joe and I did earlier this year saying, we want to serve the people of New Jersey. Joe has ideas, I have ideas, I think I have a lot of better ideas since I've been doing this a lot longer than he has for 40 years as a Republican.
Time is up. And Senator, your response.
Well, Bob, he won't be able to convince anybody. Right off the get-go, they tried to have a redo in Huntington County. That's his home county. Even after I won the county, and I beat him again, because I appealed to the better angels of their nature, and people don't like that. They don't like their elected officials anointed. They want them elected. And who are these nameless, faceless party leaders? Last I saw, I was a freeholder, I was an assemblyman, I'm a current state senator. I'm a party leader. I didn't knock on Dick's door. I just asked the people. The only people that I owe when I go to Washington are the people, not the party leaders.
Time is up, and your rebuttal time opportunity, Mr.
Well,
Zimmer.
I'm confident that I'll win my county of Hunterdon. I recently was endorsed by all 5 freeholders in the county. And the fact is that these party leaders came to me because they know that I'm a strong candidate and I'll be a fine senator. And that's all they asked for me. Was that I run the kind of race that I'm capable of, and I represent New Jersey in the way that I'm capable of. I consider that an honor. I owe them nothing in terms of policy, but I am grateful that I have this opportunity to serve the country in the United States Senate.
We begin this round with Cynthia, and your question goes to Mr. Sabrin.
Mr. Sabrin, with gasoline hitting $4 a gallon, and the fact that even if our allies, the Saudi Arabians, can't be convinced to produce more oil, thus reducing the cost, what can the federal government do? And I'm going to throw my follow-up right here. What structural changes would you make in the way we regulate oil and the price of oil in this country to lower the cost?
Cynthia, in all areas, the free market works best. The free market has given us the highest standard of living in the history of the world, using peaceful means. We need to eliminate the mandates, the regulations that stifle increasing supply of oil and gas in the United States. If we do that, we will have an abundance of oil and gas coming to the marketplace. When Ronald Reagan was first elected, the first thing he did was decontrol the price of oil. And all the pundits have said, this would be terrible for America. Well, guess what happened? The price of oil went from $30 down to $10 in 1986. That's what we need. Free markets will deliver the goods better than any bureaucrat in Washington, D.C., anyone who's trying to give us policies that stifle drilling in America or on the outer continental shelf, being sensitive to the environment, making sure we have plenty of safeguards, and if they do have a spill, they are totally responsible, not the taxpayers. Again, for decades, I've been following this economy. I've been writing about this economy. Government intervention leads to terrible consequences. Shortages of goods and higher prices.
You have 30 seconds to respond.
Yes, Cynthia, we must rid ourselves of dependency on foreign oil, because right now they control the spigots. They tell us how much, and they tell us how much they're going to give us besides the price. We have more oil in shales in the Western Rockies, 4 or 5 times the amount of oil than Saudi Arabia has in its reserves. We can gasify coal. The technology to gasify coal has been around since 1880. We have more coal that can last us for the next 250 years at present consumption rate. New forms of energy, dare I say nuclear, wind, solar. We have to put everything on the table. All too often things are taken off the table before they're put on.
Mr. Zimmer.
The gasoline price situation, the oil shortage, our dependence on foreign oil is not just an economic problem, and it's an urgent one. It's a national security problem, because we're sending billions of dollars to countries that in many cases are hostile to us. We need to promote efficiency and conservation. We haven't gone nearly as far in that direction. And we need also to develop new sources for exploration and extraction of oil where we can do so consistent with our environmental responsibilities.
An opportunity for rebuttal, Mr. Sabrin.
One of the great myths in America today is the drive for energy independence. There's a new book out by Robert Bryce who says this is a dangerous delusion. We live in an interdependent world. We get oil from the Mideast. Only 11% of our oil needs come from the Mideast. We can drill here in the United States. Let the marketplace work. Instead of having top-down government mandates, top-down government decision-making. If we do that, the price of oil will come down. In addition, we've got to stop the inflation that's driving the dollar down and the price of international commodities up. I'm the only one talking about the dollar, why it's critical for the future of the U.S. economy.